This week, joining us is John Strohmeyer. John's the proprietor of Strohmeyer Law PLLC in Houston, helping families navigate estate planning, tax, and probate matters so they can leave no unfinished business. Registered trademark. He's board certified in tax law and in estate planning and probate law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. He's a fellow of the American College of Trust and Estate Counsel and host of the Five Star Counsel podcast, exploring what elite client service looks like in modern law firms. A former Four Seasons hotel night manager, John helps lawyers elevate client experience while meeting their ethical duties and demonstrating competence. Outside of work, he runs marathons, collects Legos, and hangs out with his rescue dogs, Griswold, Billy, and Tank. John, my barbecue buddy, as somebody who runs a great practice and also is a genuinely fun person, Lego sets, bobbleheads, all sorts of cool stuff. Let's help more law firm owners be able to do both those things.
Let's do this.
So I believe in talking with you briefly beforehand. You are a very boundaries driven person, right? Like this is work time, this is lifetime. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, and it goes more into that of people think, it's true. Like as an estate planner, I love planning things. I like, let's get here on time for things when it matters. For work, it's an important kind of respect thing for me of if I say I'm going to be available to you at 11:45, I'm going to be there at 11:45, preferably a minute or two early at the least, so that you get your full attention with me once we start. And at the end of it, like I'm going to respect that end so I can go and do whatever's next, whether it's talking to another client or just being done for the day. Now, if I have a reservation,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it was like I love how you started that with as an estate planner. Like I'm a planner, and I'm sitting here like because me as a more of a PI lawyer, I like life and work being merged.
Yeah,
It's an interesting.
Anybody could get injured at any point.
And we do fun things like play golf with each other and the doctors and the business lawyers and all that stuff.
And I'm fine with that. Like, a few weeks ago, like one of the biggest estate planning CLEs, like it's a national CLE where they have 3,500 or so attendees, all converge on Orlando for a week. And I describe it as, it's like half CLE, half marketing, and half screwing around and having fun, which means like it's a hard week. When I come back on Friday, I'm ready to be home. But that's the point. Like it does merge all there because you're spending time having fun with your referral partners and doing CLE. But most of the time it's like, look, I just want, when the workday is done, I like it to be done and not to think about work until the next day.
So I'm curious, is that something that you did from day one, or is that at some point in your practice you made the pivot to setting that boundary?
It's something that when I was a new associate or just an associate, all three of the firms I was at before I started this one, I didn't really get the choice. It wasn't until I got out on my own, and it took some time to kind of develop that skill of looking at, all right, well, here we're going to do this. I mean, for the first few years of my practice, I would, have meetings with clients on Sundays and drag somebody who worked for me in on Sundays as well. Then I got away from, I was like, wait a minute, this is terrible. What am I doing working on Sunday? Like, I will still put in an hour or so at least on Sunday, just getting ready for the week. That's kind of core basic professionalism of like getting stuff ready so you're not showing up totally shell-shocked for Monday. And my bookkeeper needs some information that he can move faster on Monday if he has a few things that only I have access to. So, kind of getting ready and doing that. All right, well, that'll happen at some point on Sunday after I get up and, do the shopping, go to the gym, kind of other Sunday morning stuff.
It's interesting. So I had Dan Pink was on last week talking about how to find autonomy, mastery, and purpose as a law firm owner. We kept coming back to this autonomy thing. And so it's interesting you mentioned like at your first three firms as an associate, you didn't have that autonomy. And then even in your firm, like you had the opportunity to finally implement that autonomy.
Right. As I looked around, I was like, wait a minute, why am I killing myself doing this? I'm going to be practicing for a few more decades absent, a winning lottery ticket. So I need to keep myself, rested and ready so that when I show up every day, I'm ready to go. I'm not just kind of ground down every day. Like give myself some space to relax at the end of the day thinking about, all right, well, dentists really only do real procedures 2 or 3 days a week. Like they're doing the heavy stuff. Surgeons only go in for surgery 2 or 3 days a week. Why? You can't be that focused all the time. You have to give yourself the space to not always be on.
Well, we are the product, right? So protecting the product. You're not gonna go test drive a car in the showroom and they're gonna have the 150,000 mile ground down into dust, family van there. They're gonna have the brand new one. So like we need to show up brand new for those consultations, for those hearings, ready to go.
Exactly. And I mean, and I'll pick up a fight with you on this. Of like, we are the delivery vehicle, like we're the expert on this, but ultimately the product is not time with me. Like they don't want 3 hours of Jordan's time. They don't want, a 1 gallon of legal. They want a result. They're coming to us for some sort of result, and I deliver better results, and I'm more effective for clients if, I'm fresh and I've kind of rested and kind of been able to think about things while doing other things. Like, oh, I've had a chance to talk to a friend about this and get some other ideas on what that was. But it wasn't a full-on work meeting. It was, well, we were having dinner and I said, hey, what do you think about this? Or just, shower time.
Not with the clients though.
No, no, no. So,
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I like the different I think for so many of our law firms, the difference between our firm and the firm next door is our personality, is our brand, is our style, is our expectations. So like keeping that, maintaining that, I think you called it delivery vehicle. It's important. Like if I can't imagine the people that show up to some like haggard attorney who's worked 80 hours straight and then it's like, all right, well now it's time to have the real serious conversation, but I haven't slept in 4 days and I can't focus on anything.
yeah, no, thank you. And, like the way I think about it, kind of relatedly for internal, like with my employees, is matching intensity. It's like, I only want to work so hard. I don't want to work big firm 70-hour weeks. Like, no, thank you. And I don't expect anybody else to do the same. Now, there are certain things where, new associate has more work to do because they're getting their skills up to speed. And look, you're going to have to put some of your free time in to develop your skills. That's reading the probate code or the estates code on your off time, not on my time, because it helps you get better faster. But, like we've got a rule around here of, don't text anybody in the office between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. Like that is, unless the building is on fire or you're not going to be in the next day, everybody can be left alone.
Right.
It really can wait until the next day.
What if the secret to law firm success involved doing less? That's one of the main themes of my book, Love Your Law Firm, where I dive into my story as well as the stories of multiple coaching clients in an effort to help you design the law firm that you've always dreamed of. I hope you'll check it out at Amazon in the link below. Well, I also think the big law model is built for churn, but most small to medium sized firms are not.
Hmm.
Like Big Law could hire 30 attorneys at one time, knowing that they're going to slowly stagger off because there's only so many partner spots that will open. Like that's the whole model.
And there are only so many people who want that lifestyle and are willing to stick it out for that long.
Yeah, that
Like,
makes sense.
yeah, I got to one medium firm and that was fine. That was enough. That was enough intensity for me. I've managed to carve out a pretty nice life, not having to kill myself 70 plus hours a week. It's more like 55 or so, which,
Well, and hopefully the same for your employees, right? Because like
yeah,
it's not the pyramid being built by the bottom end. It's accountability.
right.
How do we help more law firm owners make this same pivot that you and I made? Because I remember those days too, showing up on weekends, answering calls at all hours of the day, and just
You
being
know,
miserable. Like, what's the moment? What's the
I
eureka
mean,
moment?
obviously the first and foremost thing is having the ability to set that for yourself. If the expectations are that are coming from your employer are here, this is what you're going to do. Unfortunately, you may not have a whole lot of control over this. And so, getting to that place, at least figuring out what is available to you. Sure, there we go. Like you have to have that enough control or the ability to change and make it work for you. Once you do that, obviously you've got to figure out, well, you've got however many decades approximately left in your life. Presumably you want to spend it with the people you care about, doing things you enjoy. Hopefully, some of that is the work. Like I still enjoy the work I do. Most of it. There's definitely certain things where I'm like, oh, well, I'm getting paid for this job more because, well, like reconciling IOLTA, it's not one of the more fun tasks, but my job is to make it as easy as possible so I don't have to think about it too much. But that, like the basic work, what we get hired for, I really do enjoy kind of meeting with families and figuring out what their plan is.
Good.
And and so kind of knowing, well, how much of my life do I want doing that? How much do I want kind of allocated in different places? And just saying, all right, well, these are the things that are important. How do we optimize for that? Like, kind of looking at my travel schedule. Like, all right, well, here we are in February. I know I don't have any trips this month, but I know it's, two trips in March, two trips in April, and another one in June. So that's nice. I'm going to go like see other places and be able to, do fun things over the summer or spring. Just kind of get out of town and not be trapped to my, stapled to my desk. Like I'll bring the desk with me and work remotely while I'm gone.
Metaphorically, not literally.
Metaphorically.
Um, but I can't. Okay, so you've had you're working at these other firms. You have your practice. You make the decision to start implementing these boundaries. I can't imagine that like day one is 5 trips over the next 4 months. So like it's building up to something like that, right?
Right. It definitely was kind of realizing, oh, well, I can do it this way. Or I don't have to be available before any set hour or any particular, like I can say when I'm done. The magic words of firm policy is this shockingly rarely get questioned. Like my name's on the door. And if I just say firm policy is this, I don't think I've gotten nobody's ever said, well, John, it's your firm. Why don't you
You
just
are the
change the
firm.
policy?
That's good. I like it.
I mean, like
Um,
just this, well, because again, most people are coming from, well, yeah, I understand. Like the policy is something that somebody else has said. And so we really can't change that policy.
so and I love that as, you've created this other villain, which is probably former you setting this policy.
Hmm. That son of a bitch is terrible.
But like that's funny. Um, but like what are some other beginning tactical things that somebody can start doing to get these boundaries? I think you mentioned having like a brick phone or a brick app or something.
Yeah. So this is something, Instagram got me with their ads. Like this new brick app, it is a physical device that when you tap your phone on it, it locks down certain apps. Like you cannot get into them at all. The problem was, you could set your time limits on your iPhone, but all you have to do is say, give me 15 more minutes. And it's like, okay. And, you can just sit there and, blast out 15 more minutes until it's 3 in the morning and you haven't gone to sleep. This, one, you can manually do it where you just go up and kind of turn things off, which means to re-access it, you have to go back to that thing and turn it back on. The other side is you can schedule it. So, when it's time for me to put the phone down and really be asleep, I can say, all right, at this point, close this off and don't let me look at it again until tomorrow. And it's something that like Saturday mornings, I have one schedule set that's just called get out of bed. So that Saturday mornings, like starting at 7:30 in the morning until 10:30, like I can laze around in bed until 7:30 and then it's just like, no, stop watching cat videos on YouTube, get up and do something. If I sleep through it, then great. You know, I'm the sort of person I will just naturally wake up at about 6:30
Yeah.
and
Right.
I will give myself some space on Saturday mornings to do that. But after that, it really is like it's time to get up.
Well, and I love this idea because, like, for me, screen time is sufficient. If I don't have screen time, I'm doom scrolling.
Yeah.
It's enough of a ping, but I love that, like, for you, you identified, needing that one step up, and so having this app is amazingly helpful. Because, like, I've also talked to people that have their assistant change the passwords on their phone for, Monday through Friday, and then they don't get the password till Instagram again until like 5 o'clock on Friday. So like there's all varying
Wow.
levels of annullability that we can have for this, but
Right.
it's so freeing to be able to focus.
Yeah. Like just not being able, like right now, my phone's over there. I know Instagram is locked out. I can't do anything about it. And that's fine. I don't have to worry about, well, what's happening in there. Even without it, I knew there's nothing good happening in there. And I found myself just kind of getting used to it. And now, like, I check Instagram like every 2 or 3 days because, again, it doesn't really matter. Like, that's the sort of thing of I don't need to be in the middle of it. And, as time goes on, I think, oh, well, I don't really need this app or that app either. And so it'll get kind of tweaked. So I turn off the things that are just kind of the offenders when I start seeing, oh, well, that's sucking my time. I can get rid of that one.
Another good use of screen time because it'll
Yeah.
give you the how much time you've spent and which apps. I also am a big fan of like booking links. So if you're looking to be, home by 5, set your Calendly, Acuity, Lawmatics, whatever, to not book past 4:30, like
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
4 o'clock, whatever it is, like building some of this structure in place, I think becomes so helpful.
Well, and even beyond that, so I use Calendly and have for close to a decade at this point. Um, Having kind of default schedules. Like here is the scheduling time. So across multiple types of events, you can have the same scheduling rules. Well, I have one set of rules for virtual meetings, and a different set of rules for in person.
Oh,
And
smart.
that way, and then coupling that with a routing form where it's like, all right, you want a 30-minute meeting? Do you want to meet in person at our office or by Zoom? And then it sends to basically identical but different time scheduled or different availabilities for in person versus Zoom because, virtual I'll do 5 days a week. In person, the default is set at Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the days I normally go into the office.
See, I'm also a big fan of that because especially like the staff not being able to have access to you Tuesday, Thursday, I think helps them support your boundaries so much better and know how many things they can handle without you and all those things. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, I mean, it's less for staff, but more for clients of just kind of setting that boundary. This week I will be in the office 4 out of 5 days. Like, client just wanted to meet in person. And I'm not saying, I'm not going to tell them no, but I want it to be like here, like we will accommodate this, but kind of setting my default of here, we're doing this. And it's, no, this is somebody who it kind of works around their own schedule of when they can make things work.
Well,
So,
I also think then that client, you get a credibility bump where they're like, hey, I don't normally do this, but I will do this for you. I will come in on a Thursday or a Tuesday or whatever it
yep.
was.
Yeah. And like, again, like the 4 days I'm coming in this week, I'm not showing, 3 out of the 4 days, I'm not going to be here until after lunch anyway. So, it's half days
Sorry,
in the
man. I don't,
office.
one of us cut out.
Oh, yeah. And so it's 3 of those 4 days that I'm in the office. I'm not going to be here until after lunch anyway. So, it's half day in the office. I still get kind of the benefit of waking up and, not having to put on trousers until it's time to leave the house. Nobody knows. We'll be fine.
I mean, I'm wearing shorts,
Yeah, good for you.
but nobody would know. They have bananas on them. They're Savannah banana shorts.
Perfect.
They do not match the shirt. Anyway, so so we mentioned the Brick app, we mentioned screen time, we mentioned the boundaries of the booking links. One or two other tactics that we can help people get these work boundaries in.
Again, like the boundary, it's all about how do you set it up so you just don't have to make those thoughts anymore, or like use your
Yes.
brain space on that. And so text expander is one of my big things as well of saving this email. And there are times where I probably sound like a robot to clients who've asked for phone calls, and it's like, all right, here you go. You know, please please send me a few times that work, or here's the link. And I say the same, like because it's the same easy text expander that has my Calendly link. I don't have to think about what to say. I don't have to remember anything more than like the 5 or 6 characters and then just get rid of it. Like my assistants know as well. If I get an email on Monday, if I haven't responded to it by Wednesday morning, their job is just to go ahead and schedule the call. And they have that in Text Expander. Those are their, kind of default rules to make sure people keep moving forward. Yes, like I get more emails than I can keep up with. I do my best. But the point is to kind of like give people the chance to talk to me and like let me help you. But if it's just, my job is not just processing email. That's just an easy way for people to get in front of me.
But I want to highlight what you just said, though. So, in essence, if you don't respond to this email or don't take action, your staff knows to still push it forward.
Yes.
Like, that's amazing. Way to be able to be a bottleneck if you want to, but not be forced to be a bottleneck. I think that is anybody listening, like, please implement that rule. It might be one day, it might be 2 days, it might be a week, whatever it is. I
Yeah.
think that is such a smart tactical thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's one of those of, we're focusing on how do we take care of people. And, the thought is we're optimizing for responding to clients, whoever else it is. But then they know, like my assistants know when we meet to talk through things. If I haven't responded, they're there to ask. And, there are plenty of times I'll say, yeah, if I haven't responded by tomorrow, make sure you do that. Or, they also know certain like things where it's don't even wait. You just respond immediately. If somebody says, hey, John, I've got this new client for you, don't wait. You just send it out. Like they have the message already. Send out the message of here are the next steps. And it's speeding things up. And by speeding it up, like what I'm also doing, like I've delegated down to them, read the email, look at what it's asking for, and based on that, like make a decision. Now, it's okay if you don't know, we can kind of further define it. But for certain parameters of here's a new client. And over the years, my assistants have kind of learned who is a referral source that will be involved in the matter versus one who won't be. It makes a difference. Like we don't, the probate litigators generally aren't involved in the estate planning process, but financial advisors and CPAs are. And so when, we get emails from the latter, like, oh, great, here's a link for a client to schedule, plus a chance for that financial advisor or CPA to send us whatever documents. They also, probably know that we're authorized to talk to them at this point.
If your idea of vacation means checking emails from a chair in a different state, you don't have a business. You have a terrible job. Most of the time, it's because we have no vision and we're doing everything. I coach firm owners out of the day-to-day and into more of a CEO type role. Ultimately, they end up doing less in the business, doing more for having a great life, and then we tie that back into a way that actually grows their business. When you're ready to make that switch, click the link below to book a call with me, and let's see how we can work together to help you achieve the life you've always dreamed of.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
How I think there's so much value in that, just like brain sharing, that them knowing that difference. Is that something that you do affirmatively, or that's just you've had staff with you long enough for them to realize the differences? Like, how do you get that mind meld effect?
Yeah. So, Jordan, one of the things about being in this, expertise business is there's a lot of information crammed up in my head that everybody who works for me, it'd be a lot easier if they all had, 15 years of experience, but they don't. So part of my job is to, delegate down the learning so that they can do things and I don't have to be involved. Like scheduling a court hearing. There's no benefit to me being the one who schedules it versus my assistant or the law clerk knowing how to pick up the phone and call the clerk and get on the calendar. So this happens through a few different things. One, just we're making sure that people know how to do things, and I don't know how to do this. You go figure it out. But also for my assistants, I meet with them 3 times a week to just go through things. And I think they've got like a 40-page document of just all their notes and kind of the triage list, like, the major rules for dealing with me. One, if it's not on my calendar, it will not happen. Which means, all right, if I'm going somewhere and they can see my calendar and they know, like, if you don't see a hotel reservation, that's a problem. It means I don't have anywhere to stay.
I love
You know,
that.
and just kind of talking through things and making sure they're taking notes on what those standard operating procedures are. So again, like here, here's what you should be doing. Sure, they will like not under they will make mistakes because they don't know everything, but just kind of learning over time. This when this person emails, this is what it means. Like add that to one of the things. If you forget, that's fine. Like they're the assistant. Nobody very rarely are people like, "Oh my God, your assistant didn't know everything." I'm like, nobody expects that.
Also, it's a good red flag to not necessarily want to work with that person if they really have that exacting of a standard.
Yeah, like there's no way I can say, remember all of these people. Like, frankly, they learn it by seeing who comes across the most. Um, and yeah, like I I guess I cringe a little bit at saying, well, like here are the best people to care about the most. It's like you'll see, like if you want to take notes on that, if you think it's important, sure, I could come up with a list, but the system seems to have worked pretty well.
Well, plus I think it's less cringy than like these are my platinum people, these are my A-listers, these are my like I don't know, there is no.
Right. I mean, do I have the platinum 10K people that I've sent that to? Sure, I have that saved in text expander. Like, but we send that to a bunch of people, and it's not an official list, really. It's just, you know, hey, thanks for doing this. If you ever need to get on my call, here's the special Calendly link. And guess what? I give it to a lot of people.
Gotcha. But it still feels special.
Yeah,
You are the man
like the
behind the
secret
curtain.
referral hotline. Why not?
Yeah, I love the concept of like the VIP lounge just so
Yeah,
you like making an artificial line at the door so people think it's cool to get in and then making a VIP lounge to make another spot to have an artificial wait to have. It's
yeah,
wonderful. Everybody feels special.
exactly.
Anything else about the work boundary stuff before we transition to the life side of this?
I don't think that there really is. Like there's so many little things that just kind of picking one or two and going with them is a great way to get started because there's not a straight line for me putting this together. It's like, all right, well, I kind of jumped ahead here. I saw this and kind of stitched it together. And like you don't build Zapier in a day. You don't build text expander or Calendly in a day. You just kind of you put one in, and then you tweak another. Like I've got a thing on my notes for later today. I need to build out a new Calendly link because my staff was looking at it as like, hey, can you do this? Like schedule this type of call with clients who are in a probate matter with us, just so we can see what's going on. And it helps signal everything and kind of a better way of closing things out. Oh, great,
Yeah.
sure.
All right, so an Alico one. Every business owner should have an executive assistant or personal assistant or something along those lines to help you with these things, to take a shot at your email, to push through your bottlenecks. That would be the one thing I'd want to add.
Yep.
All right, so if y'all are watching this as it releases on a Tuesday. This Friday is day 3 of our 6-part series in Change Anything. This week is Silence as Feedback. We're talking about social motivation through the standpoint of Jordan losing 40 pounds for the year. And at the point that we are recording this, I'm down about 18. So I'm doing a good job.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. It's been kind of hard, but also not that hard. I just realized how terribly I was eating if I don't focus on it. So
Yep.
it's a good balance. All right, so I want to talk. So let's flip to the other side of this conversation because the key to boundaries, right? It's the point at which you can love yourself and the other person, the point at which you can enjoy work and love your life. Let's talk life side.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I think people struggle with is having a fun life. Like at work, we are important. People, our name is on the door. We bill hundreds of dollars per hour. So I think a lot of small business owners lose sight of the purpose of this being to also have a fun life and therefore find themselves sucked back into work because it's more fun than the not planned life that they have. Would you agree with me on there?
Yes.
Okay, so how do we help those people?
And so, like, this is where I'd mentioned this earlier. Like, with the few decades or whatever I have left, my goal is pretty vague. Spend time with people I care about doing things I enjoy. Yeah, it's vague. Like, the people can change, the activities can change. I mean, some of them, like the family's really not going to change. But through life, like people move and come into your life and kind of leaving space for whatever that looks like. Um, the activities have changed, like the hobbies. What I found kind of years ago, my job is really just pushing paper around. And sure, it's satisfying in one sense, but there's the kind of lizard part of caveman part of your brain that says, I would like an activity where I can kind of hold something when I'm done. And it's been different versions of things. Like I homebrewed for a while. Lego was a good one for me during COVID that I still enjoy. But the downside is that there's not kind of a free aspect to it. You're following instructions, and when you're following instructions, it's not necessarily as creative. It's cathartic, it's meditative because you're sitting there and assembling things and enjoying that process. But now, what I've gotten into over the last year is miniature painting because it allows me to, have something at the end of the day that I can point at and say, "Oh, look, my skills are getting better." But it also gives me a chance to spend time with my sister, who is she works in the professional art space, and so she really knows how to paint. And it's fun to just go over to her house, spend time with my nephews doing painting because they enjoy it, and then she'll usually just kind of sit down and kind of grab one of the things and just do one by herself. I don't have to ask her; I just have the stuff sitting out there, and like a fly to honey, she's just dealing with it. Like she's picking up and doing it. And so it's a great way for me to, one, develop a skill, but also spend time with the people I care about.
I love that. And I love that you have the multi-impact of it, but I also love that you identified the tangible nature of it. Like there are so many law firm owners I talk to that feel that same way, and so my wife bakes, and so other people have gotten into like woodworking, like something where you have a physical object at the end. I think that is huge for us because of the intangible nature of our work.
Yeah, and I enjoy being, taking a first crack at being handy around the house and trying to fix things. I also have a handyman like on Sunday. He came over and had built like it was super easy. He all he did was go to Home Depot and get some wood to make some very rough shelves. Uh, like just cut the side planks for like the actual shelf. Everything else was built. Sure, I could have done it, but it was so much easier to have him do that for me, and I got to do anything else for an hour.
I love it. So how did you find what to do? I know you mentioned the home brewing, you mentioned Legos, you mentioned the miniatures. Like, how did you figure out something to try?
It's just kind of random. The homebrew came up like years ago. We had friends who did it, and I was like, oh, well, this looks like fun. I'd tried it a few times or been there with other friends who had done it and thought that looked neat and did one small version of it. All right, well, just kind of kept, it was fun enough to keep going. And, giving myself the space to be terrible at it to start so that when I did more, it's like, okay, great. Now I've got disposable income. I can dispose of it on this hobby I need for now. And then, it just kind of naturally dropped off, and that's okay. And kind of also giving myself the space to say, it's okay if I don't want to do this nearly as much. Recognizing the limits of, I want to do some of this, and it doesn't mean I need to commit all of my life to it.
Well, but I also think so you mentioned, excuse me, the painting with your sister and your nephews.
Yes.
This one you mentioned friends who are doing it. So like I love there's also this communal aspect, right? So if there's somebody in your life you want to spend more time with, what are their hobbies? What are they into? What do they like that's fun? I think that becomes an easy way to try things.
Yeah, like I've got like my group of friends here in town, like there are five of us in total. We all ended up at one guy's house yesterday for the Super Bowl, and I rolled over for a little bit. Most of what we do is just hang out and watch sports together, and that's great. Like there aren't really many other activities that aren't something like that, and that's okay. One cooks more than the other. Oh, okay, we'll kind of see what he does. But that's the thing, just being around people you care about, you'll kind of pick up on things and see what you learn.
The other one I think is huge is something physical, weightlifting, running, sports. I think you've ran 50 marathons as of
That
last
is
year.
correct.
That's amazing, dude. I've done one and I will not do a
That's,
second.
yeah, that's more than enough.
How did you get into running?
I ran in high school. And
Okay.
so, like, at the end of college, I realized, like, oh God, I'm out of shape. How do I get back into shape? And I'm like, well, I'll start running. And it was easy to have a goal at the end, like, I'm going to run this marathon. And so this is what we're going to go and try and do next.
Nice.
Yeah.
I also think that's helpful. I don't know if you're like me, like I'll do shorter races, and so I love like creating the plan. So I'm like, all right, I have 8 weeks, and it's like here's the gear up, and so okay, I run
Yep.
3 or 4 days a week, and then those go on the calendar, and now I've got like all those runs set up and mapped out.
Yeah. And I did the same thing. Like, I have, a target race for later this year is, using my Garmin and letting my Garmin tell me what to do.
I use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild how like it. I was like, hey, I ran a sub 30 minute 5K. I want to run a sub 2 hour marathon or half marathon. It's on this date.
Yep.
Like build me a thing, and it just nailed it day by day. It was crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Then where do we get people to start? I mean,
Yeah.
like what was you made the commitment to setting this boundary, and then did you reward yourself with a Lego set? Did you like do you gamify this? Do you incentivize yourself to follow? No.
No, I mean, like, too many rules, then it's just like, then it's not going to happen. Like,
Makes
I
perfect
know
sense.
I want to, I want to work out 5 or 6 times a week. And so that's the way the Garmin set up. I kind of get up in the morning, look at what the watch says to do, and then generally go do that.
Well, and I think that's a huge important takeaway for people. Like sometimes, you can make things as complicated as you want to. And so I'm
Absolutely.
sure there are people that, from the home brewing standpoint, what you're talking 2 weeks to 4 months for some of the beers. So I'm sure there are people that have staggered, 52 weeks to make sure that they are properly home brewed up and stuff versus, following the watch.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like you can get too into planning. Like, again, as the planner, sometimes I can fall into the trap of I'm going to spend more time planning than instead of actually doing. The painting is like, oh, well, I need to go figure out this better way to do this, and I need to watch 5 more videos on how to do this painting technique instead of just picking up my paints and doing it.
Well, but at least you're trying it, right? Like the thing that kills me is talking to the people that are like, oh, I want a boat and I subscribe to this boating magazine and I went to these boat conferences and then they buy a boat and they hate it immediately, which is totally fine. But like you spent so much time like building this up to be a thing as opposed to like, all right, go try homebrewing with a friend. Okay, go order one miniature and paint it. Okay, get a couple Lego sets. Like
Yeah,
just, you don't need to spend $1,500 on gear before you do something once.
but it sure is fun spending that money.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the opportunity to, and I love the idea you mentioned earlier, the disposable income. Like, hey, I'm cool with this project. I'm paying somebody else to do this part of it. Like
Right.
Rod Stewart has this apparently like insane miniature train set. He's like, I built almost all of it myself. He's like, but the electrical work for that, I was like, I'm Rod Stewart. I'm paying somebody else to do the electric work on this giant train set in the basement. So, like
Awesome.
you find the bits and pieces that make it fun. I think like that's the whole point is this shouldn't feel like work. It should feel like play.
Yeah, like cleaning off my desk yesterday, the handyman just helped me like reorganize the cables and having the accountability to get it done because it's been on my list for probably a month to turn my home desk into something that didn't look like, literal nest of black vipers with cables going everywhere. And so the cables are now mostly under and hidden. Great. Now I'm going to do something else.
Jeff Bezos has this quote I'm going to paraphrase, where nobody is ever going to complain that they ordered something from Amazon and it was too cheap or it got to them too quickly. I'm of the belief that nobody is ever going to complain that their calendar was too well organized or that they spent too little time on email, right? But we all don't do those things. The easiest way to get those things offloaded is to delegate them to somebody, specifically an EA. I have gone through many executive assistants over many years, and from that have created an awesome SOP. This is the actual SOP that we use on a day-to-day so that I can work 3 days a week, focused on my zone of genius and not do all of the random stuff. I'm going to give you the entire SOP in this program with questions and help on hiring an EA and finding the right person, as well as implementing the SOP. Click the link below to purchase our EA SOP package.
I love it. So, how do you know that the life planning, having fun is working? In our business, we have KPIs, and and maybe you have KPIs for life. I don't know. Maybe the Garmin is tracking speed of run, distance of run. I don't know.
No real personal KPIs. Life's pretty good, so I just kind of roll along and say, well, like I'm sad the weekend was over. I wouldn't mind some more time doing that, but we'll get out of the office in the next half hour. I've got to go do a few things, but tonight, you know, make dinner, walk the dogs, um, get knock out a few end of day, or beginning of the week work things, and then like not think about work until Tuesday morning.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, for me, so at the end of the week, I ask myself, did I have enough time with myself, with my son, with my wife, and with my friends? And like
It's great.
aggressively, there is no KPI. It is
Right.
not 1.5 hours here, 3 hours that whatever. It's just like those four questions help me realign because there is no KPI, as opposed to like for my weight, for my runs, for my lifting, like I want the numbers to go up or down, whatever was the right direction
Yeah,
for those things. And so I like that. Just sometimes it is that gut feeling of like I feel happy.
exactly. Yeah,
I
and like happiness is kind of an elusive goal, and just trying to be nonstop happy. It denies the reality of, look, sometimes things are going to be tough. Sometimes you're going to have to do something that is unfun, and that's okay. Like that's just part of life's rich offering. You just have to deal with not everything can be 10 out of 10.
Sure, but I think most people would benefit spending more time being aware that they are an 8 out of 10 instead of bitching about the 2 out of 10 that they're not.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have any advice, tip, something, the living in the moment, gratitude. No. Okay.
Nothing more on that. Like, again, I wish I'm just a humble country tax attorney. I just do the best I can. Uh, Look, there are times for working and there are times for not working.
Well, but I like the fact that you are like listening to yourself. Sure, I'd love to have a longer weekend. Like, I think that's great as long as it's not like, oh my God, I'm dreading work tomorrow, right? Like, it's that Aristotle's golden mean. There is that right amount of enjoyment of time off that is healthy versus hating work versus, being too lazy, whatever the other ends of the spectrum become.
Yeah, good.
How can we help? What do we think is preventing more law firm owners from doing these things?
Just not seeing that there are other options out there. Like it all starts inside your head. You've got to, you know, you have to want it. And once you start seeing what it is you actually want, I don't know what that it is for anybody. You've got to figure out what that is and that you are looking for yourself. And once you know what to aim for, it's a lot easier to go get it instead of just kind of randomly saying, "Oh, well, I'm gonna, no, I need to go buy this boat because that's what success looks like." For me, success looks like, well, I get to take trips and hang out with my tax nerd buddies at, you know, fortunately tax deductible trips to conferences 6 times a year. That's pretty cool. Like
I
that,
love it.
having mid-tier status on United because I fly enough. Like that's not so bad.
Well, I think the key is us to be more vocal about it, right? Like I think it's easy for people to post like I was a super lawyer. It's easier for them to post my firm had record profits. Even just posting like I had a really good weekend and I didn't think about work. Getting more things like that, like people seeing more successful people talking about the quote unquote downtime
Right.
that they're having. I think that becomes really helpful.
Exactly. Great.
And then also I think the conferences are great because then you can also tell your clients like, hey, I am going to become a better attorney for you. I'm going to
Yes.
learn the latest things to be better while also hanging out with my friends
Absolutely.
and deducting it on my taxes.
I don't think clients care about that part, but that's fine too.
Well, no, I mean, but like the win-win-win, right? The win for
Yeah.
them, the win for you, the win for not the IRS being the win for us. Cool. All right. So, anything else? Any final thoughts? Anything we want to share in closing?
Yeah. Everybody go figure out what you want and then go get it.
I love it. It's so simple, and it should be simple. It won't necessarily be easy, but like the simpler you make it, the easier it is to achieve.
Correct.
I love that. Awesome. John, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened. We'll see you back here next week for Allison Williams' episode. Next week's guest, a longtime good friend, Allison Williams. She's an international speaker, award-winning attorney, and managing partner of Williams Law Group in Northern New Jersey. She's a fellow of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, best-selling author of Tiger Tactics, CEO Edition from Zero to Law Firm CEO, and the CEO of Law Firm Mentor, a coaching company that helps law firm owners reduce chaos and grow revenue. She also runs Allison Speaks, LLC, and is known for her work and commentary in child maltreatment evidence and trial practice with national media appearances and published articles. She's repeatedly been recognized as a top attorney in New Jersey, and she frequently teaches and presents CLEs and speaks at major legal conferences. And as like all of my guests, she's awesome. So I hope you join us next week for Allison's episode.